There have now been more than 10,000 people infected with the virus in Italy.
All of Italy is going on lockdown.
Countries such as Italy and Iran are in the middle of the battle. Elsewhere, the impact of COVID-19 is just beginning.
Tuesday, the CDC said that it's spreading here is not a question of if, but when.
The NBA is now suspending the season because of coronavirus.
The 2020 Summer Olympics, now the latest major sports cancellation caused by the global
says up to
COVID-19
150
pandemic.
million people in the United States could end up getting corona.
This is not the last major outbreak we're ever going to see.
COVID-19 has created
There's going to be more
a
outbreaks,
perfect storm
and
for
there's going to be more
conspiracy theorists.
epidemics.
When somebody's the president of the United States, the authority is
today. The World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic.
Require 48 million hospitalizations, 96 million cases actually occurring, over 480,000 deaths.
Well, just a crazy scene at a grocery store where toilet paper has been in high demand.
Yeah, surveillance video shows a stampede of customers clearing the shelves.
Fights over toilet paper.
Stars are aligning, the plan is colliding, the plan is arriving.
What better way
She's out there smiling
to go out of 2020
The fear is upon us, the skies try to warn us.
than with the song
The parents are gone, there's no children tomorrow.
that predicted
It's driving me crazy, this war is my lady.
a global pandemic.
Death is on the tip of her tongue, and danger's at the tip of her fingers. Streets are on fire tonight.
You should know this song. If you don't, this is Streets on Fire by Lupe Fiasco. If you don't know who Lupe Fiasco is, Lupe Fiasco broke out on the scene with a noteworthy verse on Kanye West's single, Touch the Sky. After that, he struck the rap game with his debut single, Kick Push. If you've never heard it, it's basically a rap song about skateboarding. Now I know by the time you're hearing this, black dudes, even rappers, skateboarding is nothing unusual. I mean, even Lil Wayne does it. But before Lupe, skateboarding for black dudes was a no-no. Especially as a rapper. You were basically considered a white boy if you did that. Pretty ridiculous, I know. But that's how it was. For this reason, a lot of people didn't take him very seriously at first. But on the other hand, a lot of other people clung to him because, like the rapper who gave him the opportunity for his breakthrough feature performance, he was presenting a new image of what the rapper could look like. On that note, you could say that Lupe Fiasco is the heir apparent of Kanye West. After Kanye came in and broke the mold of what a rapper could look like or talk about, Lupe Fiasco took the possibilities to a whole new dimension. On September 19th, 2006, he released Lupe Fiasco's Food and Liquor, his debut album that would be hailed as an instant classic and even provoked fans to venerate him as the next savior of hip-hop. Similar to how after Michael Jordan's retirement and his era passed, many were on the lookout for the next Jordan. In hip-hop, many were on the lookout for the next Nas. With his holy grail of an album, Illmatic, as the centerpiece in hip-hop's Hall of Fame, many fans and artists have wondered if one day someone would come along and match the caliber of that performance. Well, on Food and Liquor, Lupe Fiasco made his first case for why he would come to be known as one of hip-hop's most profound storytellers, king of concepts and the dawn of double entendres, with songs that sound like what a comic book reads like, such as the instrumental.
Scared to look away, cause at that moment it might show him what to take off the locks with. So he chained himself to the box, took a lock and then he locked it. Swallowed the combination and then forgot it. As the doctors jotted all down with their pens and pencils, the same ones that took away his voice and just left his instrumental like that.
And Daydreaming, a song about a kid in a project building that transforms into a giant robot, with lines like,
and the crackheads beg and about the lower leg. There's crooked police that's stationed at the knees, and they do drive-bys like up and down the thighs. And there's a car chase going on at the waist.
And then a song which is a foreshadowing of the next album, The Cool, a treasure of hip-hop storytelling. It's lines like,
working like a reverse archaeologist, except his buried treasure with sunshine,
that provoke people to claim that this guy is bringing a new element of rapping, similar to what Nas did with Illmatic, with vivid imagery in his rhymes like,
he grabbed onto some grass and climbed, pulled himself up out of his own grave, and looked at the time on the watch that had stopped 6 months after the shots that had got him in the box, wringing Henny out of socks.
With the mainstream popularity and the cult following that Lupe was developing, hordes of rabid fans awaited the sophomore release, anticipating not a sophomore slump, but a champion's comeback. And Lupe did not disappoint. Released exactly 1 week before Christmas of 2007, Lupe Fiasco's The Cool hit the rap world like a comet. And to this day, many identify it as his best album, and one of the best albums ever made, with an intricate storyline weaved through the track list. He tells a compelling tale, and among those tracks would be one of his most arcane that he's ever made, and also one of the most analyzed by his truest of fans. But for those who were able to decipher some meaning from it, I don't think any of us were able to truly see the prophetic potency. But then there was 2020. And if there's one thing that will define the year 2020 in history, it is
disease. The virus is spreading in all directions. No safe zone, no cure, and no protection. No symptoms define the signs of an infection. No vaccines, remedies, and no corrections.
Disease. The virus is spreading in all directions. No safe zone, no cure, and no protection. No symptoms define the signs of an infection. No vaccines, remedies, and no corrections. Do I even need to explain any of that? This came out in 2007. If in case somehow you don't know about the coronavirus, let's rewind these lyrics. No safe zone, no cure, and no protection. I will tell you right now that I have had the coronavirus, and I caught it following all of the safety guidelines very strictly, including wearing a mask anytime I was outside, sanitizing, washing my hands all the time. No protection. No symptoms define the signs of an infection. The only way I knew I had COVID was because I got a test. After that, there were no symptoms. I had no symptoms whatsoever, not even a temperature. That's what makes the virus dangerous, is there are so many vectors who don't know that they have it because there's no signs of an infection. No vaccines, remedies, and no corrections. To this day, there is no vaccine for the virus. yet.
Quarantine your dreams and turn off all connections. Don't let them in, not a friend, not a reflection. Everybody's got it and want you to have it next then. Don't accept them if you want to stay as an exception.
What the? I just can't even. This track is quarantine the dreams and seal off the connections. Quarantine the dreams. If you've even had any type of fantasy of being out amongst society, being around people, quarantine even that thought. Seal off the connections. Lock yourself in. Block everyone out. Again, my own experience, when I tested positive twice for the coronavirus, I was quarantined to a hotel room for 2 weeks, and I could not make any contact with anyone whatsoever. If someone was bringing me water, they could not come in. I could not make any contact. They had to leave it at the door. Don't let them in. Not a friend, not a reflection, not even anything close to human contact can be allowed. Everybody's got it and wants you to have it next, and don't accept them if you want to stay an exception. I don't even need to explain.
No pill can heal the ill of this sickness. Some are still in doubt of its existence. Some call it forgiveness and some call it the vengeance. Some say it's an exit and some say it's an entrance.
No pill can heal the ill of this sickness. Some are still in doubt of its existence. Oh my God. There's no cure. Now here's the flip side. Some don't even believe it's real. Some don't believe it exists. Some call it forgiveness and some call it the vengeance. Okay, I should let you know this is where it's about to get really, really deep. So put on your thinking caps. Put on your thinking hard hats because it's gonna get deep. Just a couple notes about this song. First off, this came out in 2007. I already told you Kick Push was his first single. It came out in 2006. If you're unaware of the landscape of hip hop during this time, here were the top 3 rap songs in 2006. Number 1, It's Going Down by Young Jock. Number 2, Snap Yo Fingers by Lil Jon. Number 3, Lean With It, Rock With It by Dem Franchise Boys. Okay, so this is what hip hop was sounding like at the time, okay? This is when things really started to go downhill. In 2006 was when Nas, this is the same Nas that is at the pinnacle of the hip hop pantheon, said that hip hop is dead in 2006. And then Lupe Fiasco hits the scene and drops this album and this track the next year. This sound that Lupe is introducing in this track is so new at the time, and his flow is so unique. And he still has this action-packed cadence, rhythm, and energy to his delivery that sounds more like you're listening to what a thriller sounds like. Well, that's no accident. Because, and I hope this reaches all those who've questioned the meaning behind this song. This song, Streets on Fire, is essentially a hip-hop adaptation of a classic dystopian novel. Some would say the dystopian novel, the originator, called 1984. Yes, Lupe himself said that this song is based on George Orwell's classic. And with that context in mind, the mood and pace and content of the song begins to make things even more clear. Now, why is that relevant? Let's go back to the lines we just heard. Some call it forgiveness and some call it the vengeance. Some say it's an exit and some say it's an entrance. On the surface, this obviously alludes to the controversy and debate within society concerning the virus itself. But in the context of 1984, it's something deeper and even more sinister. For those who don't know, in 1984, the key villain is the government. A government that maintains a totalitarian regime, using several ploys to control, manipulate, and stupefy the populace. One of which is a tactic called doublespeak. Essentially, it is a manipulation of words to mean the opposite of what they represent. For example, the Ministry of Truth collects and disseminates what we today would call fake news. And the military is called the Ministry of Peace. The Ministry of Love is a location where political prisoners are held and tortured. This correlates directly to two more tactics used by the government. One called newspeak. It is a new dialect created to replace the English language as we know it. To quote Noah Tavlin, a writer from TED Conferences LLC, you know, the TED Talks, newspeak is a crudely limited collection of acronyms and simple concrete nouns lacking any words complex enough to encourage nuanced or critical thought. Do I need to explain the relevance of that? A crudely limited collection of acronyms and simple nouns lacking any words complex enough to encourage nuanced or critical thought. In our time, it's gone even more crude than acronyms and simple concrete nouns. We just use a catalog of variations of the same smiley face conveying different expressions. And another called doublethink, which is essentially a form of subliminal hypnosis that tricks the individual into doubting and denying what they logically know to be true in favor of what they are persuaded to believe by the government. So essentially, what they believe is entirely dictated by the governing body that rules them. And this is accomplished by the manipulation of words. In the end result, the individual has no true awareness of what is even real. Now, I'll remind you that I am simply explaining the subtext of this song and the context of 1984. I am not attempting to make any specific claims, politically or otherwise, but it is important to understand the connotations that lie beneath the surface of these lyrics. Now, jumping back into the lines we just heard, some are still in doubt of its existence. Some call it forgiveness, and some call it the vengeance. Some say it's an exit, and some say it's an entrance. Those are clear antonyms. This is very significant because in the party, the ruling government in 1984, there are three key slogans that the government uses to constantly reinforce doublethink. War is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength. Despite the clear contradictory nature that you notice when you hear those phrases, the people in the society of 1984 are so brainwashed that they can't discern the obvious falsehood within those statements. Now, relating it back to this song, there are those who say, the virus is forgiveness. No, the virus is vengeance. No, the virus is an exit. The virus is gonna kill us all. No, the virus is gonna deliver us. It's an entrance. So following this theme in the context of 2020, this would suggest that there are some who believe this whole pandemic could be part of a governmental ploy.
The poor say the rich have the cure. The rich say the poor are the source. Revolutionaries say a psychological war invented by the press just to have something to report. Some say the first case came from a maternity ward. Some say a morgue. Some say the skies. Some say the floors. Say the nuns. None say the hoods. And everybody is sure.
In case you didn't catch those bars, the poor say the rich have the cure. The rich say the poor are the source. Revolutionaries say it's psychological war invented by the press just to have something to report. Some say the first case came from a maternity ward. Some say a morgue. Some say the skies. Some say the floors. Whores say the nuns. Nuns say the whores. And everybody is sure. What Lupe is trying to convey here essentially is societal upheaval and unrest. A flame has been sparked and a wildfire is beginning to spread. Revolutionaries say it's psychological war invented by the press just to have something to report. Is that not a fact? There are many who believe that COVID was just invented to manipulate the people.
An increasing number of increasingly angry people who are convinced coronavirus is nothing more than a sinister plot to control their lives.
If there's two things that are important in life, it's truth and it's freedom.
Shocking and horrific Australian government fascist lockdown.
It's all a mind game.
Around the world, we're seeing them become more vocal and more extreme.
What if all you ever knew was a lie?
It would be okay for the government to force us to be vaccinated.
Yes, if the vaccine is safe and effective and necessary. The government has the right to compel that. Supreme Court decision, 1905, Jacobson versus Massachusetts. You can condition allowing kids to come to public school on having been vaccinated.
A vaccine is the world's best hope of overcoming the COVID-19 pandemic.
Possible breakthrough in the development of a coronavirus vaccine.
There's a problem. A growing number of people say they won't take a vaccine.
I don't want to inject anything like this into my body.
Some here see a vaccine as part of a wider government conspiracy to exaggerate the dangers of COVID-19.
Then everybody is sure. The scientists say it only affects the mind. The little boy said it only affects the girls. The preacher man said it's gonna kill off the soul. A bum said it's gonna kill the whole wide world. Death is on the tip of her tongue, and danger's at the tip of her fingers. Streets are on fire tonight.
It's about to get deep again.
Believe, so say the neon signs by the loudspeakers repeating that everything is fine. A subtle silence to demolish the troubled conscience of a populace with no knowledge and every freedom denied.
Believe, so say the neon signs by the loudspeakers repeating that everything is fine. A subtle solace to demolish the troubled conscience of a populace with no knowledge and every freedom denied. Visualize the scene here. A dystopian society under a totalitarian rule, completely brainwashed, walking through streets with neon signs littered down the blocks that say believe. Neon, shall we say, screens flashing in your face day in, day out, throughout the day, persuading you, lulling you into a state of passive acquiescence and complacency. Those signs are by the loudspeakers repeating that everything is fine. Many totalitarian governments in real life have historically utilized these exact measures, such as speakers repeating such statements as, communism is good, communism is good, communism is good. That's facts. That was actually utilized in the time of Stalin. A political prisoner by the name of Richard Vermbrand was imprisoned in Romania for almost 14 years, including 3 years of solitary confinement. The man was burned, beaten literally to the bone, locked in a freezer, observed by doctors until he physically reached the brink of death, and then thawed out, and then thrown back in the freezer over and over again. He has said that the torture of brainwashing was the most horrible. I imagine because it was the hardest to overcome. Now, such overt abuse is absolutely unthinkable to us in the first world. But is it possible that a society in such a state could exist covertly? Perhaps if we view this as a metaphor, there may be some application to modern society.
Every dream is designed and broadcasted from the masses to the masses, from the antennas on top of the shrines. Was fine to receive and planted during the panic and shorty. It reports back everything in your mind.
Every dream is designed and broadcasted from the masters to the masses, from the antennas on top of the shrines. Refine the receiver and plant it. During the panic and short it reports back everything in your mind. Now that sounds quite complex, but essentially what he's portraying here is a scheme by the quote masters. And the key phrase here is every dream is designed. What's happening here is similar to a scene from the movie Batman Forever, in which Two-Face and the Riddler combine forces to brainwash society through television. They create a device that somehow absorbs and drains the mental energy of the viewers. This obviously is a sort of elaborate and very creative literary device to illustrate the manipulation of mass society through media broadcasts. Now, at this point, I have to pause because I've already stated that the foundation for this song is the Orwell classic 1984. But no true scholar of American literature can go in depth about the significance of 1984 without mentioning the significance of Brave New World, another dystopian classic by Aldous Huxley that actually predates 1984 by over a decade and a half. These two classic novels are often spoken of in the same sentence. However, there is one key difference between the two. In 1984, the oppression is external, the government. In Brave New World, Huxley warned that there would be no need for external oppression, but rather that society would essentially be anesthetized into a state of accepting oppression or even oppressing themselves. As the cultural critic and media theorist Neil Postman put it in his book, Amusing Ourselves to Death, he said, Aldous Huxley posited that, quote, people will come to love their oppression, to endure the technologies that undo their capacities to think. What Orwell feared were those who would ban books. What Huxley feared was that there would be no reason to ban a book, for there would be no one who wanted to read one. Orwell feared those who would deprive us of information. Huxley feared those who would give us so much that we would be reduced to passivity and egoism. Orwell feared that the truth would be concealed from us. Huxley feared the truth would be drowned in a sea of irrelevance. Orwell feared we would become a captive culture. Huxley feared we would become a trivial culture. In 1984, people are controlled by inflicting pain. In Brave New World, they are controlled by inflicting pleasure. In short, Orwell feared that what we hate will ruin us. Huxley feared that what we love will ruin us. Unquote. I told you it's finna get deep, bruh. Now, why don't we go back to the lyrics that opened up this second verse again? Believe. That's in quotations. Believe with an exclamation point. It's a statement that's written by someone to be read by someone else. So say the neon signs by the loudspeakers repeating that everything is fine. Now, if we interpret this according to Huxley's position in Brave New World, they wouldn't be loudspeakers, but it would be, as Lupe puts in the next line, a subtle solace to demolish the troubled conscience. Perhaps we can think of neon signs in our day that constantly flash images, words, advertisements to seduce us into a sense of desensitization, normalcy, passivity, where we accept this as the norm of society. Every dream is designed and broadcasted. From the masters to the masses. And it reports back everything in your mind. Sort of reminds me of a little creature called the algorithm. If you've seen the popular Netflix documentary movie called The Social Dilemma, that highlights how social media algorithms deliberately, as Lupe put it, report back everything in your mind to continually flash clickbait and enticing media every time, the very moment you open up that app or go to that website. In fact, the former founder of Facebook himself has admitted to as much.
The thought process that went into building these applications, Facebook being the first of them, that thought process was all about how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible. And that means that we need to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while because someone liked or commented on a photo or a post or whatever. And that's going to get you to contribute more content, and that's going to get you more likes and comments. I mean, it's a social validation feedback loop that it's like it's exactly the kind of thing that a hacker like myself would come up with, because you're exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. The inventors, creators, and it's me, it's Mark, it's Kevin Systrom at Instagram, it's all of these people, understood this consciously, and we did it anyway. God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains.
In Brave New World, the world system uses a drug called soma to control the people. It heightens their sense of pleasure, essentially. As Huxley said, it provided a, quote, holiday from reality. Obviously, in our time, there's the opioid crisis that has become an epidemic and the heavy use of psychotropic drugs, but there is also almost a ubiquitous addiction to the dopamine surge that comes with social media obsession. Researchers even suggest that it will come to be viewed as addictive and dangerous as cigarette addiction.
Former Facebook executive Tim Kendall told Congress the company intentionally made its products as addictive as cigarettes. Kendall also said he's worried the platform is contributing to the extremism in the U.S., which could push the country to the brink of civil war. Tim Kendall joins us now. Tim, it is so good to have you with us. So how exactly did Facebook take a page from Big Tobacco in addicting its users? And how pervasive is the addiction?
What's happened is you basically have an advertising business model that's combined with just ever-growing, ever more intelligent technology. And that combination is really potent. And what it's leading to is a product that's just fundamentally addictive for people. And it's causing all kinds of mental health issues. And I think it's eroding aspects of society. All this division and polarization that's happening along racial dimensions, along political dimensions, along conspiracy theories, around health dimensions like COVID-19, all that polarization, I believe, is getting exacerbated by the algorithms that are powering these companies. And these algorithms are designed to drive more engagement. And the reason they're designed solely to optimize for that is that's how the business model works. They make money the more time we spend on those services.
And in your testimony, you said, quote, "We sought to mine as much attention as humanly possible and turn into historically unprecedented profits."
The reason that I'm becoming more vocal is I just don't think that they've really come to grips with the degree to which the algorithm and the service has caused real harm to the public sphere and to the mental health of all of us, right? I mean, there's really clear data that social media use is correlated with depression. It's correlated with anxiety, and I'm really just trying to help people take back control over their phones because we've lost control of them, and to that degree, I think we've lost control of our mental well-being, and I think it's a scary time.
We have lost control. I think that most people who are watching us talking right now probably think that they don't have an addiction, but that there is really this insidiousness about the dings, the being tagged in photographs, and all the different ways that all these social media companies have designed the systems to try and make us operate, even without consciously knowing how addicted we've all become.
The cycle of dopamine hits that one undergoes throughout an average day of using social media is often compared to that of a slot machine reward system to a gambling addict.
According to a former Google product manager you're about to hear from, Silicon Valley is engineering your phone, apps, and social media to get you hooked.
I call it the race to the bottom of the brainstem. So it starts with techniques like pull to refresh. So you pull to refresh your newsfeed. That operates like a slot machine. It has the same kind of addictive qualities that keep people in Las Vegas hooked.
One of the central issues of Skinner's philosophy of behaviorism is that just like the pigeon, man is a predictable animal. Gambling systems have a schedule that we call variable ratio. That explains why people gamble. The psychoanalysts say people gamble to hurt themselves, destroy themselves. Other people say they do gamble for the excitement and so on. Well, nonsense. You gamble because there is a certain schedule built into the gambling device or system, as in a horse race. The same schedule will make a pathological gambler out of a pigeon as well as out of a person.
Huxley said, in Brave New World, the daily Soma ration was an insurance against social unrest and the spread of subversive ideas. Soma was the people's religion. It also increased their sense of suggestibility. So the advertisements and the enticing images became all the more alluring and convincing. Not to mention sexual gratification. In Brave New World, this was a powerful distraction to keep society docile and uninterested in important issues of reality. In 1958, Huxley wrote an essay entitled Brave New World Revisited, in which he says, quote, "What in fact has happened is the development of a vast mass communications industry concerned neither with the true nor the false, but with the unreal, the more or less irrelevant. In Brave New World, non-stop distractions of the most fascinating nature are deliberately used as instruments of policy for the purpose of preventing people from paying too much attention to the realities of the social and political situation." Unquote. If you didn't understand that, what he basically said was the mass communications industry would hypnotize people into being so consumed with the unreal and irrelevant such as fake lifestyles on social media, fake profiles trolling you on social media, fake Instagram models flooding social media with fake body parts and fake faces. These quote-unquote non-stop distractions of the most fascinating nature prevent people from paying attention to things that really matter, reality. In fact, in Brave New World, one of the key tools for manipulation and control by the world system was mass entertainment to create these, quote, painless concentration camps. The legendary psychologist and father of operant conditioning, B.F. Skinner, in his experiments with operant conditioning, discovered that rather than punishment, positive reinforcement is more effective in influencing behavior. And he later said in his book, Walden 2, now that we know how positive reinforcement works and why negative doesn't, we can be more deliberate and more successful in our cultural design. We can achieve a sort of control under which the controlled nevertheless feel free. They are doing what they want to do, not what they are forced to do. That's the source of tremendous power of positive reinforcement. There's no restraint and no revolt. By a careful design, we control not the final behavior, but the inclination to behave, the motives, the desires, the wishes. The curious thing is that in that case, the question of freedom never arises. Unquote.
A man feels free if he believes he is free, and he will believe he is free if he is conditioned by positive reinforcement to think so.
The race for attention has to get more and more aggressive, and so it's not enough just to get your behavior and predict what will take your behavior. We have to predict how to keep you hooked in a different way. And so it crawled deeper down the brainstem into our social validation. So that was the introduction of likes and followers. It was much cheaper to, instead of getting your attention, to get you addicted to getting attention from other people. And this has created the kind of mass narcissism and mass cultural thing that's happening with young people, especially today.
So if such methodology were to be employed, rather than, like Patrick Henry, say, give me liberty or give me death, the people would say, as Huxley put it in Brave New World Revisited, give me television and hamburgers, but don't bother me with the responsibilities of liberty. Anyone who was around when Lupe came around will be familiar with the schism around him. There are those who love Lupe and listen to him, and those who completely disregard Lupe. If this conversation is tiring you out, perhaps ask yourself what side of the fence you would be on in that case. This is the type of conversation that Lupe's music has always provoked. So just ride with me through this because this is very meaningful. Now, continuing in the vein of the Huxley Brave New World thought process, I have to throw in a Huxley quote taken from a speech in 1961, 30 years after he wrote Brave New World. Quote, there will be, in the next generation or so, a pharmacological method of making people love their servitude and producing dictatorship without tears, so to speak. Producing a kind of painless concentration camp for entire societies so that people will in fact have their liberties taken away from them, but will rather enjoy it because they will be distracted from any desire to rebel by propaganda or brainwashing enhanced by pharmacological methods. And this seems to be the final revolution. Unquote.
Everything is lying, everything is dying, everything is a rule, everything is a crime, everything was here, then everything rewind, the new weather burn the feathers off, everything's flying.
Everything is lying, everything is dying, everything is a rule, everything is a crime, everything was here, then everything rewind. The new weather burned the feathers off everything flying. Just more and more of the propaganda being piled on. This is to convey the type of things that are being reported back to your mind. Just constant. And you see how every statement is manipulative and negative. If we relate this to our social dealings today, one can think of the constant barrage of outrage and outrage culture, cancel culture. Everything is lying. Everything's a crime. No, everything is a rule. And again, the double speak and the double think. Everything was here, then everything rewind. Everything is present and past. No matter how contradictory the idea is, there is a way to convey the message to make the people believe it. And in 1984, the social manipulation is so effective that even the weather of the day is not discernible by the common citizen. The new weather burned the feathers off everything flying. Makes us think of what? The apocalyptic predictions of global warming. And then the next thing he says, and she likes it, and she loves it. She here is essentially the source behind all of this madness. Again, this song is entitled Streets on Fire. And in the storyline of The Cool, there are three entities that essentially encapsulate and orchestrate the villainy within this world. And one of those key players is the streets, depicted as a temptress with green eyes and dollar signs for pupils, and tattoos of her victims across her chest. And this world of mayhem is orchestrated by her. She is a personification of the antagonist that designs all of this madness that's setting the streets on fire, setting the world ablaze. The new weather burned the feathers off everything flying. The world is being destroyed to the point that even the most delicate and innocent of creatures are being burned alive.
The sadness, the madness, the bad, the lavish, the fastness, the clashes, the ashes, everything intertwined. My femme fatale, my darling fraudulent angel. Once caught her changing the batteries in a halo. Receipt for wings and everything that she paid for. And the address to the factory where they made those.
See, that last segment right there is a perfect example of why people were saying Lupe is the next Nas. This type of stuff, no one was saying this type of stuff at this time. In fact, no one in hip hop had ever said this type of stuff. My femme fatale, my darling fraudulent angel. I once caught her changing the batteries in her halo, the receipt for her wings and everything that she paid for, and the address to the factory where they made those. The femme fatale, the classic archetype of the seductive temptress who charms her lovers into a snare and a trap, leading them to a destructive demise. She's my darling, my fraudulent angel. This temptress was once beautiful, glowing, holy to the narrator. But then he says, I once caught her changing the batteries in her halo. He discovered she was a fraud, that the image she was portraying, the desire, the satisfaction, the pleasure was fake. It was unreal, trivial. And he saw the receipt for her wings and everything that she paid for to make her look like an angel, and the address to the factory where they made those. The narrator somehow woke up. He's seen this temptress for what she really is. A fraud, a distraction. Now to jump back, she likes it. She loves it. The sadness, the madness, the badness, the lavish, the fastest, the clashes, the ashes to ashes, everything intertwined. My femme fatale loves it all of the mayhem in an ambrosia of chaos. It all plays into a sinister plot. It serves the purpose to manifest the intention. The sadness, the epidemic of depression, the madness, the outrage, the anger, the badness, the evil, the lavish, those who flaunt their riches and glory and distract the lower classes, the middle class, to covet and desire that lifestyle of luxury. The clashes of ideological groups, political groups, the fire of hatred that is stoked between groups on far ends of particular spectra.
Well, in addition to all of our mental health and well-being, you also said that the platform could have other potentially serious implications. You say that social media could lead to civil war. Are you just, is this an exaggeration? What's behind this?
It's absolutely not. I mean, I think that we are seeing precursor indicators that we could be on the brink of civil war. And what I mean by that is that we've got a lot more protesting happening. We've got a lot more polarization happening. We're seeing a lot more violence in those sorts of situations. There is clearly civil unrest right now. That is the beginning, in my mind, of a perfect storm where civil unrest could get amplified. And, how much further does it need to be amplified until it gets labeled war?
The ashes to ashes, the death. She loves it all. What a chaotic world is being portrayed here by Lupe. Based on, again, I will tell you, a classic dystopian prophetic story, which was written, in case you're wondering, in 1948. Almost 60 years before Lupe released this song. A song which was released 13 years before this recording right now. Nearly a century later, and this novel rings true to this very day.
The scientist said she's all inside my mind. The little boy said what happened to all the girls. The preacher man said she's gonna kill off the soul. The dope boy said it's the whole wide world.
The scientist said she's all inside my mind. This temptress, this paragon of pleasure, desire, distraction is all inside my mind, according to the research, according to the scientist. She's influenced my mind. And then Lupe goes into a somewhat anticlimactic, ambiguous finale. The little boy said, what happened to all the girls? The preacher man said, she's gonna kill off your soul. The dope boy said, it's the whole wide world. Whatever's happening here is affecting the entire world. Ultimately, this is a dystopian narrative, and what's taking place within this story is affecting the global community. How will it end? How will it be resolved? That is the question that we are all awaiting the answer to.